We've all heard of katana versus longsword, but what about lightsaber versus energy sword? The people at SabersPro were nice enough to send me their Luke neopixel model, but more on that later. Let's go over the pros and cons of both weapons, starting with the energy sword. Energy swords have blades that are about 4 feet long, and they weigh about 5 pounds. Lightsabers usually have blades that are a meter long, canonically, although some can adjust their length, and the handles themselves weigh less than 5 pounds. Energy swords work with ionized energy held together in magnetic containment, and lightsabers work with plasma held together in magnetic containment, so they would probably clash and interact in a way that you would see lightsabers usually interact. In terms of damage, energy swords are generally seen as incredibly lethal because they canonically make the fluids in the body essentially super fast evaporate and explode, and that's very messy, and few people survive getting hit by them, even in the extremities. Now, lightsabers should technically be similar, however, canonically they're able to, chop through things pretty easily and not cause explosions in people. So given canonic interpretations, these are a bit less lethal. But I don't know if that's really important. So with length and lethality, I think energy swords have an advantage. However, let's look at how they're used. Now the sponsored bit, this is the SabersPro NeoPixel Luke model, and as you can see it looks like Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, but doesn't have the big jutting out piece right here, which honestly makes it a lot more comfortable to hold. It's the neopixel model, which means that instead of being baselit, kind of like a flashlight and that illuminating this thing, it has an entire array of lights inside the blade. This allows for a much more brilliant beam that looks good even in daylight. And when held side by side, you can really see the difference. And since it has a bunch of lights on the inside, it can come up with a lot of different types of displays and functions and colors. Now I've heard that you can plug the motherboard thing in and change colors and download whatever you want and download music. I mean, this makes music too. But I'm personally not tech savvy enough to do that. However, it's nice to have the option. These can be used for light dueling. They are held together with 3 screws. However, they're not as robust since, they've got a lot more complex electronics. However, you can swing them around. Energy swords are forward facing and they have a curve that goes over to where your forearm would be, so you don't have too much wrist mobility. The Indian Pata is a similar sword, and that was used in very elaborate, kind of scything, spinning techniques, not really thrusting like you do with the energy sword. Fighting with a lightsaber would be different than using a sword. In fact, I have a video covering what I think a lightsaber martial art would look like, but you could essentially use any sword fighting techniques that you wanted with this, and you'd be relatively limited with an energy sword's style of fighting. Now the elites might be able to do something different, but in human hands, that would be a pretty big limitation. Even though a lightsaber is shorter and less deadly, you have more options for attack and defense that we've historically gone over for thousands of years at your disposal, if you want to just treat it like a sword. So I personally think that the lightsaber has an advantage here.